The Euphrates River, the longest river in the area, is drying up, causing water shortages for millions of people in Syria and Iraq. If any river on earth has left its mark on the sands of time, it is this one. The river is the Euphrates. It is one of the world's oldest rivers and has contributed to the growth and survival of several ancient civilizations. Today, it is essential to the 3 countries that surround it. The more it recedes, the more mysteries we find in its riverbed, yet lately, this once spectacular body of water has been inexplicably drying out. A new, astonishing find that challenges all of our preconceived notions has just been made beneath the Euphrates River. What is this shocking new finding? Why is it so significant, and how will it alter everything we previously believed to be true about the world? Given this water body's enormous size and length, no one would have predicted that it would ever dry up to the pitiful condition it is in right now. The world did not anticipate the Euphrates River drying out. The Euphrates River was once so visible from space that all that is now left of this once prosperous source of water is parched terrain. The Euphrates River was the longest in Southwest Asia during its heyday, when the flow was maximal. It was a life-giving river, not just for the people that lived along its banks, but also for the plants and animals. Without this river, most of the powerful ancient civilizations we know today may never have existed. Nations like Babylon and Mesopotamia thrived thanks to this river. The river's source is in the Armenian mountains in northeastern Turkey, which are located at the altitude of around 3,000 meters above sea level. The river continues downstream from there into Syria and Iraq. The Karasu and Murat rivers gave the Euphrates River a little supply boost as it moved downstream. These tributaries work together to increase the Euphrates River's abundance and enable it to run as far as it did, but the river was valued for more than simply its size and length. It was admired more for the extensive cultural legacy it had accrued through thousands of years of service to humanity. The Euphrates River cut its way through the Syrian and Iraqi landscapes, leaving behind lush valleys that fed the country. This river is estimated to be at least 10,000 years old, but historical texts like the Christian Bible are estimated to be even older, as it's one of the 4 rivers that flow through the Garden of Eden, where creation began. This river is believed to be at least 450,000 years old, based on several prehistoric findings of stone, artifacts, and ancient remnants of the Homo erectus species. The Euphrates River's irrigation of the lush land produced the Fertile Crescent, a vibrant center of human activity that is now known in history. The river's plentiful water stimulated agriculture, allowing the cultivation of a variety of crops that helped civilizations on the Euphrates River's banks thrive. Agriculture is thought to have spread throughout the world from this region, all thanks to the Euphrates. Due to the great significance of this river, several spectacular towns and empires were constructed along it, some of whose ruins may be seen today. Mari, Uruk, Mesopotamia, and ancient Babylonia are a few deserving references. These cities were world centers of trade and innovation at the time, and the river provided a constant water source, making it easy for them to flourish. Numerous civilizations such as Babylonia and Assyria rose to prominence thanks in large part to the Euphrates River. The Euphrates served as the foundation for the civilization's vast empires. History demonstrates that the inhabitants of Babylon erected buildings around the water to improve water handling and drinking. Given that the tendency has persisted up to this present, it appears that this is where everything started to go wrong. The Euphrates River, you see, is a major factor in the flourishing economies of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. These countries have historically relied significantly on the river for hydroelectric power and agriculture. These nations have frequently clashed about who receives a greater portion of the water. Because the river originates in Turkey's Armenian mountains, Turkey has traditionally had an edge. The three countries had to negotiate a treaty to ensure that no one would scam the other out of this free-flowing body of water, since Iraq has always been at a disadvantage due to its location further downstream. You know, of the three countries, Turkey was the first to construct several Euphrates dams, which decreased the amount of water flowing into Syria and Iraq. This agreement allowed Iraq to build dams on Turkish territory and forbade Turkey from building any further dams without first informing the other two parties. However, even after this treaty, things still went badly. Turkey's dams were already taking too much water, and Syria started building its dams. Very little was left for Iraq when the river flowed through these dams. Iraq was unhappy that they only got the leftovers from the Euphrates River, so in 1989 another treaty was signed in which Syria agreed to allow 60% of the water it received from Turkey to flow into Iraq. This agreement eased the tension for a long time, about 20 years, but then Turkey launched their massive GAP project, causing the dam war to start again. The region's water and land resources are to be developed through the enormous GAP project. The cost of the project is the highest in Turkey's history. About 22 dams, 19 hydroelectric power plants, and irrigation systems encompassing at least 1.8 million hectares of land were built as part of this project. You could only imagine how Iraq felt when they learned that Turkey was pushing for this project. This was a blatant violation of the agreement. Turkey made an amazing but self-centered decision with the GAP project, which significantly contributed to the river's current sorry status. 90% of the water flowing through the Euphrates River is currently under Turkish control. As a result, practically all the water entering Syria has been shut off, leaving the land where the water should have flowed barren. Since the Euphrates River has been shut off, not only have 800 households been forced to move to other nearby villages, but crops are failing, animals are dying, and fish are no longer there. The environment of the river is also impacted. Animals and plants that depend on the river for survival are left alone and without anything. It is obvious that if water diversions and dam building had been minimized, the volume of the Euphrates would not have diminished as fast. The sensitive ecosystem of the river was disturbed by excessive use and the consequences of climate change. We can see why the Euphrates River is a mere caricature of its former self, but mysteriously strange structures and ancient artifacts keep coming into view as this river continues to dry up. First, the mysterious tunnel arose out of nowhere beneath the Euphrates. The unsettling aspect of this finding was that it was thought that these tunnels led to the dungeons where the fallen angels were imprisoned. You see, according to an old biblical prophecy, when the Euphrates River dried up, the angels imprisoned underneath it would be let loose and would annihilate 1/3 of humanity. These tunnels, which appeared to appear out of thin air, provided evidence that this was not only a made-up tale or biblical fiction. Locals even claim to have heard unusual, unsettling noises originating from these tunnels. Archaeologists have just revealed another startling discovery beneath the Euphrates, just when we thought we'd seen it all. The mythical hero Gilgamesh's hidden tomb. Gilgamesh's tomb was never discovered, which is perhaps its most notable feature. First and most importantly, this finding demonstrates that the Gilgamesh epic was neither a legend nor a piece of mythology. It also enables humanity to understand the enigma surrounding this legendary individual. It was discovered in modern-day Iraq. One of the first pieces of literature that the human race is aware of is the Gilgamesh epic. Gilgamesh, a fabled king of Uruk, is discussed along with his epic exploits in this book. There are many fantastic traditions, such as the Greek tales of Zeus, Apollo, and Achilles, yet none of them is believed to be true since no one's ever seen the tombs that would provide concrete evidence of their presence. The mythical hero of Mesopotamian mythology is called Gilgamesh. His epic narrative has awed audiences for many years. He is a towering character. Approximately 2,600 years ago, Gilgamesh was the ruler of Uruk, according to historical records. Gilgamesh was a demigod, or a hybrid of god and human, since his mother was a goddess and his father was a king. Gilgamesh was a demigod who stood tall and possessed superhuman strength, bravery, and intellect. His epic story takes root in the ancient city of Uruk. Uruk is one of the greatest urban cities of ancient Mesopotamia and is known as the birthplace of writing and incredible ancient architecture. Gilgamesh was the fifth king of Uruk. Adding his kingly power and privileges to the fact that he was a demigod, you could imagine the level of authority, power, and respect Gilgamesh commanded. However, having unrivaled power and privileges is one thing, using that power wisely is another entirely. Gilgamesh's power got the better of him. He became insatiable and even grew to become a tyrant. His tyrannical rule made the gods create a rival for him, a man named Enkidu. Enkidu was quite the opposite of Gilgamesh. While Gilgamesh was a famous demigod, Enkidu was a wild man who spent time with nature. Pictures even depict Enkidu as having two horns like a bull. However, things didn't go as the gods had planned during their first encounter. Enkidu, which challenged Gilgamesh to a feat of strength. Gilgamesh won the challenge, but rather than becoming enemies, Gilgamesh and Enkidu became friends. Together, Gilgamesh and Enkidu embarked on adventures throughout the kingdom and beyond. Two powerful supernatural men are doing mighty wonders. One of Gilgamesh and Enkidu's most popular daredevil adventures is their battle with Humbaba. Humbaba was a monstrous demigod and guardian of the cedar forest. The epic describes the cedar woodland as a holy and magical location. To preserve its holiness and to serve as a guard and protector against invaders, the gods sent Humbaba there. The divine force was there in the forest itself. It served as a sort of gateway between the world of men and the world of the gods. Enkidu and Gilgamesh were eager for an adventure. The two guys entered the cedar woodland to chop down a cedar tree despite being undaunted by the monster. They met Humbaba there, and a furious battle ensued. Because of their unshakable fortitude and power, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were able to defeat Humbaba when it was 2 against 1. The two men overcame the monstrous guardian, weakening him with every strike. In the end, the fierce Humbaba was defeated. Slaying Humbaba proved the physical capabilities of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, and spread their fame even further. They were like gods among men. The fact that they were two opposing forces coming together to form one force was truly phenomenal. Defeating Humbaba and seizing control over the cedar forest elevated Gilgamesh and Enkidu to the status of legendary heroes, but as much as this victory brought fame, it also angered the gods. The duo had to face off against several mythical creatures and jump through several loopholes set by the gods. These were some of the consequences of slaying the guardian of the cedar forest. Since the guardian Humbaba was gone, the natural balance had been disrupted, and the realm of the gods was in chaos. Thus, they unleashed their wrath by sending various beasts to take down this dangerous duo. But there was one god who didn't want to kill Gilgamesh, but to mate with him. It was the goddess Ishtar. Ishtar was the goddess of fertility and love. She is known by the nickname Queen of Heaven. Gilgamesh consistently rejected her overtures, which infuriated her. To punish Gilgamesh, she sent the Bull of Heaven. Gilgamesh and Enkidu did, however, destroy the beast. The gods therefore decided to murder Enkidu to put a stop to the warrior they had created. Gilgamesh was devastated by Enkidu's passing, and he struggled to overcome his fear of dying. Despite his godlike strength and power, he became aware that he was still only a human. Eventually, he would pass away, possessed by the knowledge that death is inevitable. Gilgamesh started a fresh journey in search of immortality. This quest took him to the far ends of the earth. He traveled across stormy seas and deadly mountains. He endured various trials and battled extraordinary creatures. He even consulted the tavern keeper, Siduri. Gilgamesh was going through a lot of internal turmoil, so Siduri tried to help him realize that death is a natural part of life on Earth and that only the deities could give someone the gift of perpetual life. However, Siduri was unsuccessful in convincing Gilgamesh that his quest was pointless. He was unable to influence the demigod's decision. A long and grueling trip later, Gilgamesh discovered the home of the immortal man, Utnapistam. Gilgamesh was aware that he wasn't a deity, but he still desired to avoid the one thing that truly distinguished him from other beings: death. Utnapistam was the only man given the gift of eternal life by the gods, and Gilgamesh was curious to learn how he could enjoy the same luxury. But instead of giving Gilgamesh the answer straight away, the deity was originally contested by Utnapistam. He was instructed to remain up for 6 days and 7 nights without even letting his eyes rest. Despite Gilgamesh's best efforts, he was unable to avoid falling asleep for that long, despite his great might. He couldn't complete the work since, after all, he was human. He gave Gilgamesh a special plant that could help him be young again, even though he had failed Utnapistam, since he felt sorry for him because he traveled a great distance and suffered much suffering on his voyage. Gilgamesh was thrilled and immediately thought about returning to his city, Uruk, so that he could plant it there and then keep harvesting the plant a little at a time for use. That way he could stay young forever. However, while Gilgamesh was bathing on his way home, a snake silently snuck into his bag and stole the plant. Although the legend doesn't say it, the god likely sent the snake to steal the plant from Gilgamesh. They were probably afraid of what Gilgamesh would become if he indeed lived forever. Gilgamesh was saddened because he had lost the one thing he had spent almost his whole existence searching for. All those years had been wasted, and now he couldn't continue to live forever. He gave the sad fact a lot of thought, and in the end he understood that every mortal man must deal with death. Instead of being fixated on extending life, he wishes he had used his years to enjoy the beautiful things in it. The Gilgamesh epic is significant because it is the earliest legend to be recorded in human history. The Epic of Gilgamesh was a foundation for subsequent legendary figures like Hercules and Achilles. It was written in an ancient kind of Mesopotamian language called Akkadian. Due to the several variations of the narrative that archaeologists have found, it is widely known. We have 12 clay tablets with the most accurate rendition of the narrative. These tablets were found by archaeologists in the Nineveh library of King Ashurbanipal. The Gilgamesh tablet was eventually discovered to be over 3,600 years old and to have been passed down through families while eluding both colonists and robbers. It traveled through several nations before resurfacing in the United States. This tablet was formally returned to Iraq during a ceremony in Washington, D.C. For as long as we know, this tablet has been the only solid proof to support the Epic of Gilgamesh, but now it seems the Euphrates River has given us something even more substantial: the tomb of Gilgamesh himself. No one truly knows how Gilgamesh died, but the commonly believed narrative is that he died of old age after he had returned to his kingdom in Mesopotamia and was buried under the Euphrates River. It is said that during his funeral, the river parted and his body was buried directly under the overbed, after which the river flowed back to cover up the gravesite. It was as though it never wanted the tomb of this demigod to be found by any man, but now that the river's drying up fast, the riverbed beneath it has become exposed like any piece of land that can be dug up. The location of the newly discovered tomb seems to match the historical account of his death. Archaeologists are keen to delve deeper into the finding. If the tomb belongs to Gilgamesh, it would shake our understanding of history and the historical record as a whole. We would have to go back and reevaluate ancient mythological beings and animals if the Epic of Gilgamesh, a figure we consider to be fiction, turned out to be genuine. This would imply that all the other tales or legends we had labeled as myths may also be true. Maybe somewhere along the road we had somehow overlooked proof or a piece of evidence that indicated the presence of these. The Gilgamesh tomb would change the course of history as we know it, but it could also provide valuable cultural artifacts or possibly the remains of Gilgamesh. That would provide a plethora of knowledge about the formerly well-known demigod hero and further our understanding of the historical context of his period. Archaeologists would need to extensively explore the tomb and examine its materials, including any inscriptions or burial rites. All of this would offer priceless information and insights that might contribute to a much greater discovery. If everything works well, we could finally be able to see firsthand evidence of the impact and power that Gilgamesh possessed. But before any of this can happen, archaeologists must first confirm the tomb's veracity. It would be necessary to carefully analyze this process using techniques like carbon dating and historical contextualization. The good news is that all the work is already in progress, which means we're closer than ever to learning whether or not this tomb indeed belonged to Gilgamesh. If so, we could discover even more esoteric truths and mysteries that we had no idea existed in the first place. All because of the dried up Euphrates River. Now, this video comes to an end. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and share for more content.